Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of the Rush Hour podcast with a Monday morning update in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni, somehow Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift are involved too, lawsuits that are going on. I've got my hair up because we need to be aerodynamic AF to get through all of this. There is a court hearing happening right now. We're not live. But we are covering this live on Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal, as we watch all of the elements unfold. What I've got here for the thumbnail is the judge denies Blake's deposition, but just for now. Just for now. So the judge doesn't want to depose anybody till all of the witnesses are set up and we've got all the information. Justin Baldoni's side wants to depose Blake right now, and that was denied. But again, I think very reasonably so. In order to cover all this, you have to understand there are no cameras happening in the courtroom. There is Inner City Press, who credit to Popcorn Planet. I saw that they were doing a live stream with Inner City Press. It is a Twitter account that is tweeting moment to moment all of the updates. So you've got Judge Lehman. He is the judge overseeing all of this, and then you've got Blake Lively's side and Justin Baldoni's side. They've got a trial date set for March of 2026. They're introducing new witnesses. They're trying to strike different things from the trial. This is a very big clerical conversation happening here. So we've got PR companies that don't want to be a part of it. Blake Lively's PR department says, my client's female-run company shouldn't be subjected to this. The judge says, what about interrogatories? They are standard. Macaulay says, we believe you will dismiss us as defendant. But then the other PR company, Abels, says, my client's company is also women-owned. And in New York State court, in New York State court, in this case, there was discovery before we removed the case here to federal court. So again, a lot of, I don't want to call it boring conversations because there are interesting things happening within them, but just to show you, they're setting the rules for how they're going to properly adjudicate this. Inner City Press commented this very interestingly, for what it's worth. In New York State court, it is up to the judge. While Judge Merchan did not allow cameras for the Trump criminal trial, nor in Daniel Penny, there are cameras so far in the Luigi case. So they could allow cameras. And honestly, I think it's a scenario where Justin Baldoni's going to want the cameras and Blake wouldn't. Why? Because unless there's some smoking gun by Blake's side, I think the public opinion is in Justin's favor. And when the public opinion is in your favor, you probably want as much press as you can get, kind of like Depp versus Heard, where the cameras were present. Why is it important to have cameras present? Well, I think it's important for this reason. People might say, oh, you're going to make a mockery of the victims or this or that. Well, it's a public case with public brands. These are public people, and their public image is so important. So any sort of defamation case, I think you should have to have cameras for a defamation case, because you want to see and kind of feel as an audience that you're understanding who's BSing you and who's not. And that's very hard to see tone, eye contact, mannerisms, guffaws, lying, blinking. That's hard to see when you're not watching it live, right? And again, for my own cynical reasons, I think it would be the most interesting thing Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni ever create. Baldoni's lawyer, Friedman, says this: we're asking to hold Miss Lively's deposition as soon as possible. We don't need any documents to do that. The harms have been going since the New York Times article came out. Losses to Wayfair and Melissa Nathan losing clients. Well, of course, we know that Blake doesn't want just Brian Friedman to depose her, but she won't say why. So there's power attorney Brian Friedman on the left, and there's Blake Lively on the right. Blake doesn't want Justin's lawyer to take her deposition, but she won't say why not. So says the lawyer himself. Brian Friedman, the attorney representing the actor in a series of different lawsuits in his law firm, have submitted a letter to the judge claiming Lively and her legal team don't want Friedman to take her deposition in the lawsuit. Unspecified statements. So she never said exactly why. It could be because he's calling her out and saying she's lying, but she doesn't say why. Now, whether or not the judge rules that he can't, I don't think without a protective order, like unless Blake Lively got a protective order against Brian Friedman, and again, I'm not a lawyer. This is just my speculating. I don't see a reason for the judge to say, no, Justin Baldoni's lawyer's too good. He can't depose you. So it's like if, like I've made this analogy before. It's like if you're playing in a baseball game and you're like, no, please don't send out your best pitcher. I'm trying to hit a home run. It's like, no, they're trying to strike you out. So Brian Friedman is chomping at the bit. You ever been hungry, waiting in line for food, and they're like, all right, 10 more minutes, and you're like, give me some of them breadsticks. I'm starving over here. Well, Brian Friedman's hungry to cross-examine Blake Lively. Here is the response from the judge denying Brian Friedman for now. Again, is this a little clickbaity thumbnail? Well, it says for now. Judge denies for now, and we're going to get into why. So he says, we'd like to hold our deposition ASAP. Baldoni's lawyer, we need to move forward to still have livelihoods. I can work as early as today to know if the new parties can be represented by us. We don't want delay. The judge says, you'll get document requests. I'm not going to allow depositions now. Interesting. The judge then says, I don't want deposition to have to be done twice. So no depositions until we know who all the parties are. Sigrid McCauley, Schiller, Leslie Stone, and Vision PR, we're going to move to dismiss the false light and civil extortion claims. McCauley, the attorney for Blake Lively, says this, or the PR company, says this is really a case about their crisis management team saying they are going to bury people. They are just finger pointing at us. We want to move to dismiss. Judge Lehman says, are you moving for a stay of discovery? McCauley says, we shouldn't be subject to it. So they don't want to be subjected to discovery. Well, I mean, if you got nothing wrong, why don't you want discovery? McCauley says, and then that's when they get into the female-owned. And the counsel for Jones says the delay makes sense. So anyway, they go back and forth over that, which is very interesting because, you have to... we can get these tweets all day long, but when it comes down to it, it's hard in this Twitter back and forth to try to understand the tone the judge is setting. Again, can I use another baseball analogy? It's like if you're a pitcher and you start throwing the ball on the outer edge of the plate and the umpire's not calling that strike. You have to adjust to know what the judge is doing. If the judge is going to allow the publicly sharing of information, then by all means, that's the rule book to play by. So we're going to have to see how this all goes down. Blake Lively's lawyer says, we want your honor to know that they have put it all up on a website. We think it's improper. And again, there's the website. So Blake Lively's side says it's improper. And as we've learned by discussing this with other lawyers, improper doesn't mean illegal. The judge says, the Lively deposition will not be taken for now, but Miss Lively does not get to choose who deposes her. No. Lively's lawyer said, we'd be fine if they deposed without documents, but there are other parties. Judge says, submit a protective order. And then people said, what's a protective order? So let's see. Now, I don't know. I don't think this means an actual protective order against Brian Friedman. This is probably the gag order that they talked about. Again, you guys can leave a comment if you know. We're going to get down to all of this. We'll have legal experts break it down with us. So yeah, we're trying to figure all this out. But right now, someone says, I'd consider a New York Times expose improper. Yeah. People said Blake went to the New York Times before she filed. And again, this is information that's just flying in. But a leaked stolen phone is proper. And again, that being the stolen, the phone that was not given back to the PR person, which is what all this information came out on. And I guess that will be brought up. I mean, all of the information that Blake Lively's side has about the crisis management team saying they would sink her, that all was acquired. I guess the question is it illegal? Well, it was acquired by the boss. The boss had control of your phone, but after they fired you, they wouldn't give the phone back. So, I mean, I don't think that was acquired illegally right now, but there could be evidence that proves otherwise. So no deposition for now. The judge asked Brian Friedman, what was the purpose of that attachment? Baldoni's Friedman says, to show the basis of our claims. It's going to make discovery easier. We're putting it all out there. So this is the judge saying, he says, what's the purpose of that attachment? But I think what he means is, what's the purpose of putting that whole website out there? And Brian Friedman says, well, because we want everyone to know. And the judge says, that's what the federal rules are designed to prevent. Oh boy. All right. That does not look good for Brian Friedman. And then Lively's lawyer says, look at this. There are images of text messages, then a narrative from a speaker who don't know who it is. They have to be in the paragraphs of the complaint. So we can move under Rule 11. We are prepared to do that now. We want Your Honor to know that they have put it all up on the website. So then we continue. And again, sorry, these are Twitter threads. They're hard to follow. The judge says the Lively deposition will not be taken. We got that. Baldoni's lawyer says only documents that can be accessed by anyone online are on that website. So what Justin Baldoni's lawyer said is these documents can be accessed by anybody. It's not like we're giving away anything. And I guess that's because now that Justin Baldoni's got his documents out there, as part of the lawsuits, Friedman says, look, anyone can access them. We just put them on the website. The judge says, I'm going to hear from Mr. Gottlieb, that's Blake's attorney, about pre-trial publicity in a moment. Oh boy, if I had to guess right now, this gag order is going to happen and we're going to be locked up. But hey, we still got the receipts. So anyway, let's see if there's any other. Someone said, well played, Friedman. It's out there, but still a doc. It's a document, but there it is, the lawsuitinfo.com, which is what we've been working off of. I don't know. Is it a big deal that Brian Friedman put this out there? It's kind of like we're going to have to see. We're going to have several updates coming. If you leave a comment, if you would prefer us just being live for all of this, we could possibly get into that. But right now, there's just still so much at play. The judge says, let's see if there's any new breaking updates from Inner City Press. Again, really hard to follow because we don't have the tone of all of this. It's a lot of back and forth, but they're doing a great job. Baldoni's lawyer says, we have no updates. That's our final update that Baldoni's lawyer, Friedman, said only documents that can be accessed by anyone online are on that website. And again, it doesn't mean that's the thing with court documents. Yes, anybody can access them, but that doesn't mean everyone's going to do it. By Brian Friedman putting this on a timeline, he's giving it to people in the most easy way possible. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him for doing that. So we're going to see what other updates we have regarding... here's something that just came to me. Ronan Farrow responds, helping Taylor Swift liaison Blake Lively's New York Times defamation article against Justin Baldoni. I don't know if this is worth covering. Let's just pop it open and see. But again, apologies for not having sort of a really proper timeline. But there is, of course, I guess the argument people are trying to make is that Ronan Farrow, who, by the way, I don't believe works for the New York Times. I think he's written for them, and he's been part of the Me Too movement, of course. But here he was seen talking to Taylor Swift. So this was posted yesterday. Ronan Farrow responds to the rumors that his friendship with Taylor Swift helped Blake Lively land the Justin Baldoni expose in the New York Times article. I don't think... someone says, I've been such a fan of yours, but taking down Justin Baldoni, so disappointing. Well, Ronan Farrow says, no, I don't write for the New York Times and have nothing to do with their coverage or of that case. Even informally or behind the scenes, I write for the New Yorker, a completely different outlet. And if I ever were to look into this, you'd see my work there. There's a lot of disinformation out there. Please always try to think independently and check what you're hearing online. My practice is to not give oxygen to attacks that are a complete fabrication, being published as in bad faith. But since you engaged thoughtfully, what you described as so many connections is me being seen at drinks with an old friend with whom I've never discussed this matter, that being Taylor Swift. I've been on the receiving end of many attack campaigns like this, and when the level of disregard for the facts is this intense, claims about me being the most powerful journalist at an outlet with which I have no contact or the architect of a story I've not touched, my experience is often that those who have brought in are already so uncritically eager for easy outlet for outrage that they have little interest in factual correctives. But for what it's worth, even the ideological framework animating this one is suspect. I'm a nonpartisan journalist, not an activist. In my reporting on sex crimes, a narrow band of my work has been about serious cases of violent misconduct or systemic cover-ups. My work has dismantled power structures, often liberal ones, in, for example, Hollywood. But this is never what motivates me. I look at the facts. You can criticize the work, but AIM is not about culture war. It's about scoops that hopefully reveals something useful about the world. Based on our handful of interactions over the years, I understand Tui to be similarly motivated, though I have not read her reporting on Baldoni and can't speak to that. I'll happily investigate Lively or Baldoni if I uncover a dimension of the story that reveals something newsworthy enough about the systems at play. But any investigation about Hollywood celebrities would have to feel very urgent for me to take it on now, given the current acute need for national security reporting. A media and social media landscape that privileges outrage, sensationalism, and reductive thinking, coupled with a lack of fact-checking mechanisms, have sadly accelerated this dynamic of disinformation sowing division. It is a frightening time for many of us, and I hope we can all do our part to channel that into thoughtful questioning and fact-seeking, rather than blindly enraged factionalism. So there's your update from and by the way, a very good one from Ronan Farrow. I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't like him, but he says he's not involved if there's no evidence saying he's involved in this case. I tend to believe him. This idea that we can go online and Google things and have it all lead in one direction is called confirmation bias. We have to be very careful here. There is a tone of people that want justice for Justin so strongly that they're going to look over common sense. And I'm not saying that's everybody, but I'm going to be here to tell you where Justin has a point, and I'll be here to tell you where Blake has a point. As of right now, I think it's a good idea for the judge to wait to depose people until everything's set up. As far as whether or not they put cameras in the courtroom, it looks as though this whole court case will take place in New York. Because you guys got me to 100,000 subscribers, I will be going. My hope is that, and again, it's with your added support as you continue to watch, my hope is that I have a professional cameraman with me. And by that, I mean, we're going Starlink, baby. I want somebody there with the whole thing. I want to be there reporting with you guys. I want to monitor so I can read your comments, and I want to be there in the mix. You guys keep showing up for me. I'm going to show up for you. I promise you that. My belief is if and when this does go to trial, I'll probably Airbnb or rent a place for a month, do reporting from my mobile studio in the condo, wherever we decide to rent, somewhere lower Manhattan, and I'll be there for the day. And then for the final hour or two of the day, when the court lets out, we'll beeline to the courthouse, be there so we can see people coming and going from the courtroom. And so that's my general plan right now. But again, we have a while to work that out. Thank you guys for keeping me up to date on all the information. We will have more content coming today. You bet your bottom dollar on that one. And if you want entertainment news, I understand. Ronan Farrow had a good point. We're so focused on this very specific court case. My psychological belief is that it's because the world out there is so cruel and there's so many scary aspects to it that this is an easy thing to glean onto. But I encourage people to continue to keep their eyes open to, what's going on in our government. And I'm doing that. I'm covering the tariffs and things like that on my podcast, The Rush Hour. You can scan that QR code to listen to the audio. It helps me out big time if you check out the audio, because while we're getting massive views on the video, that'll help boost us in the Apple podcast system. So it's called The Rush Hour with Dave Neal. Otherwise, I'll have that here this afternoon, plus other breaking news updates, Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, as they come. We still don't know if the judge is going to put a gag order in. I'm sure we're going to have that breaking news story very, very shortly. We'll be back with that.